Brian Powell of I Run Far here with AJW before the 2014 Western States. I don't have to ask how you are.
I'm doing great. Thanks, man.
It's 4 days to States Miss, and
indeed it is. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Oh yeah.
First things first. How's the 395 IPA?
Oh, this is good stuff. You told me about it halfway up the hill just now, and get yourself some of this, folks. We'll be writing it up in the tap room shortly. IPA 395, Mammoth Brewing Company.
And now on to what happens this weekend. Yeah, there's some fast people running this race.
Right.
And then there's you.
I don't know what all those people are doing up in the front.
Nah. But you do know what you're doing back there, a little further off the lead. You're going for your 10th finish.
Yes, indeed. Long time coming.
Aside from the performance, it's got to be emotional to, like, both look at it in terms of the period of time of your life that's passed while you've been going for those 10, the accomplishments you've had along the way, everything. Like, what is forefront in your mind going to number 10?
It is emotional. I was out here training in early May, and we did a training run down to the Swinging Bridge, and I just kind of got to the Swinging Bridge, and I sat there for a little while and just looked at the river and checked out the scene, and the guys I was running with were like, "Hey, what's up, man? Let's go, let's go." And I was like, kind of just taking all this in. So I have been really emotional about it these last 7 weeks, and now it's here and I'm psyched about it. I think there's a couple of things. First, my family has come of age at Western States. You know, I ran my first one in 2001. At that point, my youngest son wasn't born yet, and my other 2 kids were 4 and 2. And now they're 16, 14, and 11. So that's the one. And the other is the family of this race, that the 9 runnings and now the 10th running of this have become some of my closest friends. Some of the most meaningful experiences of my life have happened on this trail, and as a result, it's really nice to be capping it off with a 10th. And I know there'll be a lot of happy people running around that track on the 28th, and maybe for me on the 29th. But I think I'll be one of the happiest.
Yeah. You'll be joining a couple other people going for their 10th finish, including Eric Sketton.
Yeah, Eric and I have run together a lot, and we have a saying, 900 down, 100 to go. We ran a big chunk of the race together last year, and I suspect we'll be in the same zip code again this year. But Eric, as most people know, is a 2-time second place finisher. I was a 1-time second. That's one more than me. And we've had some great competition over the years, and now we just have great camaraderie. And in addition to Eric and I for the 10-day buckle, there's Tom Green from out east, and there's John Nichols. Tom Green is a fascinating story because I think he ran his first in 1982. And this will be his 10th in 2014. I don't know if that's a record for the biggest span from 1 to 10, but it's got to be close.
And he was the first.
And the first Grand Slammer.
So.
The first Grand Slammer.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fun sharing it with all 4 of those guys.
It'll be fun sharing with them, but there's something you don't want to share with Eric. Through 9, you guys have I believe a hearty lead on going for the fastest time for 10 best Western States.
Yeah. Being the guy that I am, I did add up our aggregate totals, and he is 11 minutes and 38 seconds ahead of me for the 9 finishes. So if you're keeping score at home, I want to be 11 minutes and 39 seconds ahead of Skadden when I hit the track on Saturday or Sunday.
You're going to need some reports on that, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Does anybody you have reports on how far ahead or back Eric is? Let this guy know.
Let me know.
There is a pointy end of this field. Exciting as always. It's not going to be a very hot year. It's going to be it's Western States. It'll be hot.
Yeah.
But it's not a hot year. It's not a cold year. Who does that favor? Who's your pick for the men's and women's winner on the spot?
You know, on the women's side, I'm going to go with Emily Harrison. I think another year experience. I think working another year with Ian as her coach and a couple more ultras under her belt, really focusing on Western States. I'm going to go with Emily. Hot on her heels will be last year's winner, Pam Smith. Megan Arbogast, who's recently moved to the cool California, the area around Auburn. and whose training has been outstanding. I'll put her in the mix. I think it's going to be exciting up there in the front. Casey Lichting, I think that's how you say her last name. She's from the Midwest and has had an amazing kind of ascendancy with a super fast run at, I believe it was Rocky Raccoon. Newcomer to 100, Stephanie Howe. I trained with her in early May, and she's fast on the downhills, which you know you need to be here at Western States. So I think it's going to be fun on the women's end.
And who's winning the guys' race?
I'm going with Rob Krar. Rob, as a first-time 100-miler last year, put it out there. He's a closer. I think he's chosen his races carefully through the winter and spring. And assuming there's not some issue that we don't know about, I think he's going to be in this thing to win it. I think Ryan Sands and Miguel Heras are going to keep him honest. And then I think you're going to have any number of the Marin 5, Bowman and Maravilla and Lay and Gellin and who else am I forgetting over there?
Varner's out there.
Varner. And then, you know, you're going to have some SoCal guy I think has a shot to be in the mix. Chris Price, last year's top 10 guys. Yassine DeBoon, Paul Terranova, Carl Meltzer. It's going to be fun. Not a whole lot of room in the top 10 for people to sneak in. Just saying.
You and Carl have both been at this a long time. Have you know, Carl's sort of a just another day in the office kind of guy.
Yeah.
Any insight into who Carl Meltzer is as a person, as a runner?
Yeah, well, Carl's his own guy. Carl's his own guy. I mean, I heard an interview with him last week where he says, I don't do heat training. I just stay cool during the race. And I was like, that's cool. Well, you are cool, man. But, you know, he's his own runner. He's done 6,400s. He's been out here. He was out here last year. He's going to run his own race no matter what. And I also think, you know, he's got this Appalachian Trail record on his mind for the late summer, and he's not going to let this derail that. No. So he might run with a governor on at least until Forest Hill. The thing is, if you take a look at the splits from the last year, man, Meltzer crapped the bed after Brown's Bar. I mean, he had some of the slowest splits I have ever seen from a top 10 guy going in. And he admitted, he was like, dude, I was running on fumes out there. And he really was. He really was. By the way, I need to circle back to something in terms of guys in, you know, a day in the office. There are 2 top 10 spots that are already taken. And they're taken by Sharkey and Klarman. And they're British.
Spent a lot of time on that shit.
Exactly. And they're British, and they're probably, you know, crying over England being bounced from the World Cup.
What, they play football over there?
But those guys will be in the top 10.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
U.S. will make up for it, guys.
Yeah. Indeed.
Clarkey's an interesting guy in that he, until last year, was the only guy to go under 16 twice here. Mm-hmm. But do you think he can win it in a year like this, where it's not going to be super? What year could Clarkey ever win this race?
That's a good question. I think you know, that year, the year Killian won, he tried, I think, to win the race, and he didn't. And I don't know if that did anything to him. I mean, when he won Wasatch last year at the end of the Grand Slam, he won it in style, I thought. Not enough to overtake Ian in the Grand Slam, but he still won it in style, finished strong. He finishes this thing strong every time. But in terms of him winning it, I mean, maybe it's his mindset. Maybe it's just the kind of guy he is. I think he wants to. I mean, I think what he really wants to do is get 10 consecutive top 10s, which would be incredible. He'd be halfway there if he top 10 to this weekend. But I don't know. He could win it, but it would be. I think it would take some implosions from some of these kind of naturally fast guys. There's no one tougher than Clarkey, but there's a lot of guys kind of faster.
I just have an interesting observation. if you want to string together top 10 men's finishes at Western States, you need to look really bad when you're running.
Yes, absolutely. Look at this. If you look like crap when you run,
and you're going to 20.
You're going to string together top 10s. So Dylan, you need to start looking like crap if you're going to keep this going.
Too pretty. Too pretty to run.
Way too pretty. You need to look like Clarky. And the lane farmer.
Who's that? Oh, wait.
And you know we're also missing some of the old guard this year. I know Tom Nielsen's going to be here crewing and pacing. Scotty Mills is not going to make it out this year. He sent me an email earlier, and Dan Williams I think will be out and around on the course. You know, Craig Thornley's hit his second year now as full-time race director. I think things are dialed in. We have the fun of going across Deadwood Creek on a cable with No Hands Bridge being burned out with the fire. I think that section going up to Devil's Thumb with a whole lot of trees burned out will be a little different experience for people. So there's some aspects of this race that'll add a dynamic to it. But it's Western States, and it'll be a fun day for all of us.
Speaking of change, you've seen a lot of years over here at Western States. How have you seen this race change over these 10 runnings of Western States?
Well, there's no doubt that the competition at the front has gotten more fierce and has gotten deeper. When I did my first top 10, which was in 2004, you know, I think I finished 8th. I think I was probably in 15th place at Michigan Bluff. And now, if you're in 15th place at Michigan Bluff, you're going to barely make it in the top 10. And you'll have to get lucky.
It'll have to be a hot year.
It'll have to be a hot year.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about the pack racing that's going on, about the focus people are putting on this race. So just the competitive nature of it has added a dynamic. Another thing that's changed is, and it's I think a positive byproduct of the difficulty to get in. People are looking at this when they do get in. When they're looking for a 24-hour finish or a 30-hour, they're putting everything into it. Mm-hmm. They're making it a weekend or a week to remember, and that says something. It's become a destination event, and while there's a lot of hype and hoopla and so forth around it, it has some electricity around it because of that, mm-hmm. that no other event has, and I think you saw that last year in the hot year when it was as hot, if not hotter, as 2006. And the finishing rate was much, much higher because people were here and they were going to finish this darn thing. And they took care of themselves and they got through the canyons and they waited for it to cool off at night. And that last hour was incredible. The 29 to 30 hour finishers were just amazing last year. And so I think I've seen the weight of which the people place on the race has increased, and that's added to the excitement of it. The last thing is the change that's to come, and that's the change in the entry requirements. A 100K is now the shortest you can run to qualify for Western States, and there's only 17 or 18 of those, and otherwise you have to run a 100-miler. And I honestly think that's going to have the effect of winnowing out the field in the lottery.
Just the change of 12 miles?
I think so.
At one point you wavered in the past. A few years ago you were all very staunch about you need to run a 100-mile race before Western States. And there was a period where you relented on that. Mm-hmm. Do you think now that it's so hard to get into in terms of just people wanting to get in, are you moving back in the direction of thinking that maybe someday in the future it should just be 100-milers to qualify?
You know, I was a long time advocate of the 100-mile prerequisite. And then Craig Thornley flashed a bunch of statistics in front of me that suggested you had no better chance of finishing if you had a previous 100-mile finish than if you hadn't. And it took a while for that to sink in, but when that sunk in, I thought, God, maybe there's a middle way. Maybe this 100K is a middle way. I still think at Western States, which is the granddaddy of them all, at least as far as I'm concerned. I know there are other races that are huge in people's minds, but it's the granddaddy of all for me. You need to come here with your A game on, ready to race, ready to go. And in my opinion, in order to do that, you need to have run 100 miles. Now, did Rob Carr not bring his A game last year? I doubt it. And he ran.
If he didn't, I don't want to see his
I don't want to see his A game because he ran an amazing race and it was his first ever 100.
And Ellie as well, I believe.
And Ellie ran her first 100 here. So yes, I've come around. But if it were me making the decision, and by golly, it's not, I would move back towards that 100-mile prerequisite.
If you had to boil Western States down into one sentence, what it means to you, what is it?
Western States has history, mystique, and passion like no other ultra running event or running event in the world. And I love it.
Nice little compound in there at the end.
I think I put a little.
No comma splices. Coming up on your 10th Western States probably also gives you perspective on your own career as a runner.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of years. An ascendancy.
A descendancy.
And yeah, I mean, as human. You know, looking back upon these, you know, more than 10 years as a runner, was it 14 total years?
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, what is your career as a runner, as a competitive ultra runner?
Yeah.
Like, how do you?
Yeah, I think my days as a competitive ultra runner are over. I will compete with the people around me.
Yeah.
In the last 6 miles on Saturday.
You compete with yourself.
I'll compete with myself. But what I like when I think about my career as an ultra runner, and when I think of the highlights, and when I think of the way it's impacted my life, is I've been able to be a part of the sport. First of all, I've been able to be a part of the sport during an incredible era of the sport. And not just here at Western States, but at all the other hundreds I've done, Wasatch and Vermont and Hard Rock, and to see the evolution of ultramarathon trail running from a competitor's point of view has been really interesting. I've also, I think, seen an interesting evolution of the sport in terms of how people view it in the outside world, how people read about it in magazines, read about it online, read about it on Facebook. How there are now ultramarathon figures that are recognized around the world for being ultramarathon figures. That didn't happen when I ran my first Western States in 2001. Mm-hmm. I mean, people knew who Scott Jurek was. They knew who Tim Tweetmeyer was, but they largely knew who those people were, and Trayson, in the context of this small little band of somewhat different people. Now it's hit sort of the mainstream. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of prestige in it. There's a fair amount of incredible athletic talent in the sport. And so what I like about having my career kind of bisect that evolution is that I've just seen it happen at the same time as it's kind of happened to me. You know, I've never been a person who's been able to make a living running, and never thought I would be able to. But it's neat to see that people are able to do that. And if the sport that I fell in love with back in 2000 is going to be able to be that moving forward, then I'm going to be all in with that and the biggest ambassador for that, and on the same page with that forever.
So there's nothing wrong with people earning a career from...
Not at all. Not at all. I have no problem with people earning a career from ultra running. And in fact, if you look at the champions from this race over the last 4 or 5 years, you know, most of them have been able to, in one way, shape, or form, parlay their winning of this race into, if not running their career, at least professionalizing what they do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. I mean, and gosh, I wish somebody had allowed me to be a professional runner when I got second in 2005. But it wasn't quite as big a deal back then.
That's a great segue into, you were second here, and you've had a lot of other great finishes, but you were second here.
I was second here.
Is there anything you could have done, you know, with another 9 years of perspective to have been a champion at this race?
Okay, I'll answer that honestly, really for the first time ever. I really wanted to win it in 2006 because I finished second in 2005 and Scott wasn't coming back in 2006. And then I was stupid and I got hurt. I overtrained. I peaked early, like a lot of people do for this thing. But I probably ran my Western States in mid-April that year. And by the end of April, I was sidelined with an injury. And by the time I was ready to come back and train enough to enter the race, I was only in, well, I got sixth that year. That was the shape I was in. If there's one thing in my ultra running career that I could rewind, it would rewind the tape to the day after I finished second and do that whole year differently. Because finishing second made me think I could win. And I started training to win 11 months before the race. And that was stupid.
It's impossible.
Stupid. So 2 months before the race, I crashed. And I made it through 2006. I had decent races in 07 and 09 and 10 and whatever. But I think I had my moment. I was 30, I was 38, 39 years old, that kind of sweet spot age. And it just didn't happen.
And if you'd been in 2005 shape in 2006 was the kind of year that would have...
It would have fit me to a T. I trained a lot with Graham Cooper that year, who ended up being the winner because of the unfortunate circumstance with Brian Morrison at the end of that race. And I was every bit as fit as Graham. And as Nikki, I think. Nikki finished third that year, keep in mind, overall. And I hit it wrong. I hit it wrong. It was like California Chrome. I peaked at the Preakness. And, you know, is it a regret? Sure. But I still have that second. That count for something?
Nice job, Bob.
I don't have a cougar. No cougar in my house.
You got some other nice wins out there.
Yeah, I got some.
This is a sport where, when I started in 2002, I had some really great mentors. I can see that today. Who were your mentors in this sport?
Thanks for asking. I mean, if you've read any of my material, you know that my #1 mentor is Tom Nielsen. He's a San Diego guy, multi Angeles Crest and Western States finisher. In fact, he's he finished second to Scott Jurek, closer than I did, which is his claim to fame, I guess. But Tommy taught me a lot about how to run these things, and continues to send me a note last week, and will be here this weekend. So Tommy's a huge mentor. So too is Scott Mills, who's race director of San Diego 100, and really 60-plus-year-old ultra runner. I think he has 18 or 19 finishes here.
Yeah, he was going to stop after 10. We'll get back to that.
Yeah, he was. and then, you know, you're kind of a mentor to me, and just kind of a person who's passionate about the sport. Craig Thornley, who's race director Western States, who kind of puts things into perspective, is kind of a mentor to me. Dan Williams, a 20-time plus finisher here, is a mentor to me. Tim Tweetmeyer. Recently, I've reacquainted myself with Ann Trayson, who's given me a few lessons on the mental taper, which I have appreciated. So I have a lot, but you know, nobody gets very far in this sport without listening to the people who've come before them.
And how are you going to be one of those guys that tells the people who come after him how to do it? Like, how do you see yourself over the next 10 or 20 years in ultra running?
Well,
I don't say 5 years. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna be shy about giving people my opinion. That's for sure.
That would be a shock.
I'm not gonna be shy about giving me my opinion. I do I do hope to give back to ultra running in Western states. I do hope to continue to run hundreds. There's a lot of hundreds I want to run. I want to get out to Bighorn. I want to get up to the Bear.
Let's do Bighorn next year.
Yeah, let's do Bighorn next year, and then come straight here and hang out.
Let's do it.
Drink beer. I want to get back to Hard Rock. Dale knows that. Dale, if you're watching, I want to get back to Hard Rock. I know it might take 5 or 6 years, but I'm patient. You know, so I want to give back to the sport. I want to mentor people if they care. I think I have shown an ability to run Western states and peak for 1 race a year. I think I overachieved last year, finishing 17th, and I hope I overachieve on Saturday. But I think also, if there's a way I can help people understand that you can, this sport can not only become something that, not only be something that you do, but can become like who you are, and that the lessons you learn in ultramarathon running about patience and overcoming adversity and just seeing things through to the end and finding a way through the tough things in life, it's such a great metaphor. And that it's fleeting these days. I see it with the youth I work with. So that's the way I'd like to see my post-competitive career in ultra running. And I'd also like to find a way, and I think I will do this, of blending my lifetime career in education with this career in ultra running, because I think there's a fair amount of synchronicity between the two that that I might be uniquely poised to at least share anecdotes about with people.
And are those people students? Are they school administrators? Are they ultra runners? Or
well, they might be a little bit of both. I think that there's a certain being a school administrator, it's really good to be an ultra runner, because you got to keep going and stay up late at night. And but being an ultra runner, it's nice if you're a school administrator, because you put up with all kinds of crap, and whatever crap the trail's going to offer you is nothing compared to the crap you put up with as a school administrator.
There are no teachers out there, no parents out on the trail.
There are no parents out on the trail. That's me. I think it's an audience of people. You know what it is? It's an audience of people who want to just be better people. I think what's happened to me, what ultra running has made me into, is a better person, a better dad, a better husband, a better runner, I think, a better school administrator, and just a better person.
If there's one lesson from ultra running that has changed you into a better person, what is it? What is the most important lesson you've learned out on the trails from here to Auburn?
Oh, I mean, it's gotta be, just take a punch. Take a punch, get up, and come back. Patiently know that you're gonna get knocked down, you're going to get up, you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get up. Most of what you have to do is just show up, be prepared, focus your energy on the day, and then just execute the plan. And patiently, deliberately, thoughtfully get through. That is, you know, on my worst days of work, on my worst days of being a dad, on my worst days of just, that gets me through. That's the most important lesson.
Get back up.
Get back up.
Keep going.
Take a punch. You know the punches are coming. Take them. Get back up. Keep going.
You fall in the elevator shaft. You do the worm and keep on running.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, what's it going to feel like coming around the track? You say you're going to be one of the happiest finishers.
For number 10?
For number 10.
I did say I'm going to be happy. I'm also going to be sad. I mean, it's over. It's going to be number 10. And I know you and many others don't believe it, but this is the end of my run at Western States. I mean, unless you force me to run this thing again. I think there's a lot of closure that I get out of number 10, and there's other people who want the spot. But it's going to feel, it's going to be a rush of emotion. It's probably going to start at No Hands Bridge, actually. But
what's going to happen on White Bridge?
At the White Bridge? Yeah, that's. I hope you can get out there.
You just read my mind. I was just thinking, like,
if I can finish.
I hope
Yeah.
that somebody can take my spot at the finish line, so
if
I can
I can finish far enough behind the first place woman,
or 10th woman,
if you could get out to the White Bridge, that would mean a lot to me, because it's just gonna be this flood of all the years coming together. All the rivers and the creeks, and you've paced me a couple times here. Two of my pacers who are coming back are Andy Roth, who paced me through my 4 AC finishes, and Jeff Hudson, who's paced me, I think, at least for 5, Huddy, at least for 5 of these, and then Logan, my son, is going to come in from 49. So, I mean, it's going to be, I don't even know what it's going to be. I'll tell you one thing. Whenever I finish, I won't be doing any sleeping anytime soon. I'm going to stay, and I'll be the last to leave that track, too, on Sunday morning.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon. It is going to be hard for me to peel away from this event. And there's a big part of me that doesn't want to, but there's also a big part of me that knows I need to.
You need to move on.
I need to move somewhere. But this is right here, always.
Right now. Forever.
Yeah.
What is, if there's one race that you want to run, if you could run one race next year, is it Hard Rock?
It's definitely Hard Rock. It's definitely Hard Rock. So I went to Hard Rock in 2009 after running this. And I said, God, this race would be great if I was a little bit more experienced and didn't have Western States on my legs. And so what I would love to do, if I could script everything, I would bring the whole family out here to Western States. We would do the whole race, volunteer, do whatever.
Crew for Monkey Boy.
Crew for Monkey Boy. Help out you with tweeting. Help out Craig with whatever he wants, and then drive straight to Silverton and run Hard Rock. That would be the dream. And I'll keep putting into lottery for Hard Rock. I really respect the way they run their lottery and the way they run their program there, and it's an incredible, incredible experience. But like I said, I'd also love to run these what I call B tier races. The Bighorns, the Bears, all of the San Diego, Scotty's race. I'd love to.
It's not B because it's a lower quality race.
It's not B because it's lower quality.
They're slightly less competitive.
It doesn't, and it doesn't have as much of a demand to get into.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I mean by B. It's not a lower quality event.
No.
It's simply it's just the stature. Mm-hmm. And I think I also have unfinished business with Angeles Crest. So and that's now moved to July.
Yeah, good luck with I think you and probably Tommy Nielsen probably both have some unfinished business.
Yeah. But maybe that's for another interview.
Yes. So the sport has changed a lot. It's grown. The most competitive races have gotten more competitive. People talk a lot about elitism and money and it becoming exclusive. Is that the case? Or do races like San Diego and Bear and Angeles Crest and Bighorn, do they show that's not the case?
Well, I think the money rubs off. I mean, I think the money trickles down, if the money that comes into the sport is supporting athletes and is supporting events and is possibly supporting journalistic ventures such as I Run Far or others, then I think that's all elevating the sport. I think the danger is if that part becomes elitist, if the money chases, if literally the money chases the money, and I don't see that happening yet. It could be that all the event organizers gravitate toward one thing, all the runners gravitate toward one thing, and then it all just funnels. But there's too much egalitarian spirit in the sport for that to happen. And so the San Diegos and the Bighorns and the Angeles Crests and the Vermonts and everybody else, they're getting full-fledged sponsorships. They're getting corporate folks getting interested in their races. They're feeling the love of the growth of the sport. They're able to carve their niche in what their event's identity should be.
So if some of them are losing some of the limelight, like Angeles Crest has, like Wasatch has, like Old Dominion did years ago,
Yeah.
they're still finding the support and they're still benefiting from the growth, even if they're not the A game right now.
Absolutely, and they're only losing the limelight because the limelight is so limited.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of lime in the limelight. I mean, if we were,
It's more like a little like handheld.
I mean, if we were talking about if it was CNN in the 24-hour, there'd be plenty of love. But there's just not that much there. So, the resources are so thin. You got to do what you got to do. But when you run an event, so I just ran an event a week and a half ago, Highland Sky 40 in West Virginia. Beautiful event. Patagonia sponsored it. Some local bread making companies, some sock companies. I think a brewery was involved, which made it especially good for me. And it was a great event. And it was a huge party afterwards and a barbecue. And that Highland Sky 40, it filled in 6 days. They don't want anything more. And it's filling with people, from Washington, D.C. and West Virginia and Tennessee. And so I think there's room. I think what we need to do is just make sure we continue to be united around the values of ultra running and the values upon which ultra running kind of started.
And those are?
Well, they're very egalitarian. Everyone runs the same trail. Everyone starts at the same time, finishes at the same time. Everyone has to deal with the same hardships. We're all in this together type of thing. The thing that makes it elitist is when there's a perception, whether it's a reality is another story, a perception of some sort of special treatment for elites. That does rub people the wrong way. Whether I don't think it's they get their hotel room paid for or they get their travel, but during the event, if there is some sort of a special treatment for an elite, that's going to make ultra runners go ballistic.
So if there's a water bottle table for elites,
that would be bad. That would, like you have in road marathons.
Yeah.
Or if there's a special place where all the elites support vehicles get to park and no one else gets to park. I mean, that would be bad.
If you have your own porta pot at the beginning of the start.
So that's what I mean by the values. The rest of the values are part of what makes the sport great. You just tough it out. You're strong. You're hardy, and you stay there till the end.
Now, there's the tough, gritty. There's grit, and there's smart, and sometimes I see them as two different sides of the coin, like almost opposites. But can they be used together? I mean, because there's really tough runners, and then there's people who run within themselves and are smart. Like, how do those two aspects of ultra running?
Well, I don't know. It's funny you asked that, because when I caught up to you on the rock on Little Bald Mountain last year, you asked me if you could get some grit training.
I did want some.
Yeah,
grit.
You wanted some grit training. I think you had your smarts were okay. Your grit was out the back, dude.
Yeah.
I think honestly, that's the secret to running successful 100-mile races. You have to be smart and you have to be gritty. And those things are going at, sometimes to be gritty, you have to puke and barf and poop and piss and get up.
Which means you made something went wrong.
Something went wrong and you have to get through it.
Yeah.
But you also have to be smart enough to know, okay, this is happening to me. This is bad. I could panic and freak out and have a pity party, or I could just suck it up and get to the next aid station. And so I think, grit, I've written a lot about grit, and I'm a firm believer in it both as a runner and more as an educator, especially in this day and age of every kid gets a trophy in the soccer tournament. I think we need to reward excellence more, and I see as much excellence coming from talent and smarts as I see coming from grit. And you especially see it in a race like this.
Saw a lot of it last year.
Oh yeah. And I think you saw a lot of it both in the rainy year that we covered in 2012. Both Timothy Olson and Ellie Greenwood ran gritty races. in 2012. They knew it was cool. They knew no one was going to drop behind them. They knew they had to just go. And they went grunting and snot flying and everything else. It was awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Both of them. They were just unleashed.
Awesome. They were unleashed. And I don't know if they think of that race as their finest day. I did see it when I saw the video feed of Comrades. I saw that same look in Ellie's eye that I saw that in 2012 in Western States. But that's what this brings out. And I think, I wasn't there, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what was brought out with Kyle Skaggs' course record at Hard Rock. That was brought out with Ann's previous course record here at Western States, and that even Jim O'Brien's 1989 course record at Angeles,
which still
stands. Still stands. I mean, that is the perfect storm of grit and smarts.
Is that where it's at?
Yeah.
If you have your perfect storm of grit and smarts on Saturday, where do you end up? Time, place, or neither? I mean, what is your perfect day?
Well, you know what? My perfect day on Saturday is that the heat that's supposed to come on Sunday comes a day early. That this heat front comes in quicker. I don't think they do that, but because the only thing I'm gonna, that's my only hope of a top 10. But you know, I wouldn't start this race without having a fleeting dream of a top 10. You know, that I was 35 minutes behind Carl's top 10 last year. You know, I'll want to find out what place I'm in at Green Gate. But realistically, I mean, it will only be if 1830 is good enough for a top 10, or 1845, or 19 hours. And that was good enough for a top 10 5-7 years ago. Hasn't been good enough for a top 10 recently. So, realistically, you know, if I'm in the top 20, and if I get to ALT before I have to turn my headlamp on, I'll be good. And then when everyone meets me at Roby, it'll be a long 1.2 mile victory lap with a fair amount of tears and a lot of.
You'll choke up, won't you?
I will. Yeah. That's a sure bet. As long as I'm 11 minutes and 38 seconds ahead of Scadden.
39. 39. Come on. You don't want to tie him.
No. 39.
Then you have to run off. And then if you're on 11, you got to run 20.
Yeah.
If you're on 20, you might as well run 25. It's all downhill from there.
Absolutely.
Well, AJW, it's been great.
It's been awesome, Ryan.
Thanks, man.
See you in Squaw. Shit, we're in Squaw.
Hey! All right. I got 2 bonus questions for you. One we talked about on the rod. Best running shirt ever.
Look at these things.
It's not the Outrun Far, despite the Outrun Far logo.
Okay.
These are not for sale anymore, but these Mountain Hardwear, way too cool shirts.
Mountain Hardwear, way too cool shirts.
Bring them back.
This is my go-to. Topher, if you're listening, bring this back. In the humidity of the East, it is so amazing.
The dryness of Moab, perfect. Topher, listen to us.
Listen to us. We want these shirts.
Perfect. Second question. Shit, I've drank too much beer. I don't remember the second question. Oh, what is it going to take to get you to cover Outrun Far, or cover Western States with Outrun Far next year? I got to start lobbying, right?
I don't know. Is there a speaking part?
Yes. Do you want to do some interviews?
Let's talk on Sunday.
What, are we going to stop talking between now and Sunday?
All right. Oh, man, that was so much fun.
5 minutes. Best interview ever. That was 36 minutes of pure gold this year.
Oh, that was fun.